We're live at Fraud Fight Club Round 3. I'm here with Tracy Hall. Tracy, can you tell us about your role and work in fraud fighting?
Yes, my name is Tracy. I'm an author, a speaker, an educator, and advocate for victims of fraud, mostly intimate fraud or romance fraud.
And you are a victim yourself. You lost over $300,000 to Australia's most notorious con man. What made you make that decision, and what have you earned or lost from that?
Yeah, it was a big decision to go public. Probably, to be fair, for the first 2 years after it happened, I was very shamed. I was really just surviving, getting out of bed every day, trying to go to work, because I'd not only lost my life savings, I've been betrayed on a personal level and on an intimate level. So that was really difficult to deal with. But there was a very popular podcast that was done in Australia by The Australian, which is our key masthead newspaper. And that podcast, I decided to talk to the journalist, and that kicked off a sort of a year-long investigation into Hamish McLaren, which uncovered the extent of his deception over 30 years. And that was all going on while the police were investigating him for the money he'd stolen from 15 Australian victims. Going on the podcast and speaking about that publicly was probably the first step in my journey to healing, I guess, is probably the word. So, yeah, I decided that it was a risk. I was working a big career in tech, in marketing. But for me, I was like, I had never heard a story of somebody like me who had gone through something like this. And I thought, if I can use my story to help other people, then it's worth it. And now I speak on behalf of the people who don't have their own strength yet.
Oh, that is so beautiful. All right, so for our last couple of questions, you have a fraud fact you can share.
Somewhere between 30 and 90% of people who are victims of scams and fraud never report. There is such a high level of underreporting.
Yeah.
And if you look at particularly romance fraud, it's on the higher end. So what we're seeing and the numbers that are being reported are the tip of the iceberg. And there's a lot of reasons people don't report. There's reliving trauma, which I understand. There's reputational damage, career risk. But the biggest one is shame. I can really relate to that. Shame is a feeling. I just thought to myself, how could you be so stupid? Like, how? You're such an idiot. These are the things I was saying to myself. They were awful. And yet this is still a perception in our community that people who are targeted by fraud, particularly romance fraud and intimate fraud, should have known better, should have seen the red flags. And so they see all these headlines and they won't report it. And some of the headlines written about me were pretty heinous, to be fair. So there's this huge underreporting, and that's one of the reasons. And I think this is why one of the things I advocate for is changes to language and narrative. Yeah, I've written a language guide in conjunction with the Australian government for journalists and for organisations, just so that they can position this type of fraud, or all types of fraud really, with a focus on the criminal, focus on statistics, let's use trauma-informed language. So things like, we never say a victim lost the money, because they didn't lose the money. It was stolen from them. We should talk about the criminal, not the victim, in a headline. Things like this. They're very small changes. There's 9 principles. They're very easy, and it gives an example of what a headline used to look like and what it could look like now.
I think the language is such a power.
Words matter. They do. Yeah.
Is there any other thought you want to leave our audience with today, Tracy?
I think what I like to see myself as that bridge between corporate organizations, government, and then the consumers, because a lot of consumers don't see that the work goes on in the background. And what I like to do is take that intelligence back to them in the talks I do and the education that I do, so that they can see that there is a group of people that are fighting so hard to fix this problem. And yeah, I'm 100% here for it.
Thank you so much for the time today.
Thanks, Brianna. Nice to talk to you.